Year 2560 BC. A single miscalculation would doom the pharaoh's soul to eternal darkness. This is not just construction. It is a race against the gods, and the key to eternity lies within these wooden bars and strings. To reach the stars, they started in the mud of the Nile, ebony imported from the south. Hard as stone, durable as time, they needed absolute stability. The wood must not warp by even a hair's breadth. At the royal workshop, there is no room for error. Queen Hetepheres oversees every step. She knows the price of failure. The Merkhet, the instrument of knowing. A simple sighting bar, yet full of power. Each pass must be perfect. The surface must be flat to receive the plumb line. Here the lifeline of the stars will pass through. No machines, no lasers, only the eye and the hand. Royal approval is the first step. But the Merkhet needs a companion. That is the bay. Crafted from the rib of a palm or animal bone, it is the sighting slot of the universe. This V-shape must be narrower than a hair. It is used to lock onto the North Star. Its precision determines the true north of the pyramid, a tiny gap that captures the entire sky. Gravity is the only constant they trust. The lead bob anchors the Merkhet perpendicular to the center of the earth, the perfect union of wood, bone, and gravity. When the sun sets, the real work begins. The gods are waiting. The desert breathes differently at night. The heat that scorched flesh for 12 hours now surrenders to cold silence. The sand remembers the sun, but already forgets its warmth. In this liminal hour, between the world of light and the realm of shadow, the astronomer priests emerge, and they carry nothing but the Merkhet and the bay. Two objects that weigh less than a newborn child. Yet in their simplicity lies the power to command stone, time, and the afterlife itself. The construction site stretches endlessly. Limestone blocks wait in geometric precision. Copper tools rest against unfinished surfaces. Thousands of workers sleep in temporary shelters, their bodies broken by the day's labor. But the true architects do not sleep. They walk to the edge of the foundation trench. The ground has been cleared, measured, scraped flat by reed and rope. Yet none of it matters if the alignment fails. The pharaoh Khufu will not accept imperfection. His tomb must be a ladder to heaven. His soul must rise on invisible rails carved through the cosmos. If the orientation is wrong, if the sacred geometry fails, his Kai will wander the darkness forever, hungry, lost, forgotten. This is why two men stand in silence, waiting for the universe to speak. The chief astronomer is named Hemiunu. He is the vizier, the architect, the keeper of sacred knowledge passed down through 17 generations. His father taught him the stars before he could write his own name. His hands do not shake. They cannot. He places the Merkhet on a carefully leveled stone platform. The wooden bar extends horizontally, dark ebony against darker sky. From its center hangs the plumb line, linen cord twisted tight, weighted with lead shaped like a teardrop. Gravity pulls it straight down, always down, toward the center of the earth, toward the underworld, toward the gods who wait beneath. His assistant holds the bay 10 cubits north. The palm rib is weathered, ancient, used by his grandfather's grandfather. The V-notch at its top has been worn smooth by decades of starlight passing through. It will not fail tonight. It cannot. They wait. The moment of truth. The sky rotates, imperceptibly to the untrained eye, but Hemiunu sees everything. He has spent 40 years learning to read the cosmic clock. He knows that the stars are not fixed. They wheel around a single point, the axis of heaven, the nail that holds the universe in place. In this era, that point is marked by a star the Greeks will one day call Thuban, Alpha Draconis, the tail of the dragon. But to Hemiunu, it is simply the imperishable one. The star that never sets, never dies, never abandons its post. It circles the celestial pole in an endless vigil. And tonight, it will tell him where North lives. He watches through the V-notch of the bay. His assistant adjusts the position slightly. The plumb line swings in the evening breeze, then steadies. The string bisects his view, a hair-thin shadow against infinity. Thuban appears at the edge of the notch. He waits. The star moves. So slowly it seems motionless. But he knows better. It crawls along its circular path, a faithful sentinel completing its eternal round. Minutes pass. The plumb line hangs dead still now. Thuban crosses the meridian, the invisible line that runs from the northern horizon straight up through the pole and down to the southern horizon. "Mark," Hemiunu whispers. His assistant drives a copper stake into the ground, exactly where the bay stands. The angle between the Merkhet, the plumb line, and the bay creates a perfect north-south axis. True north has been determined. Human tools have conquered the sky. But this is only the beginning. One sighting is not enough. One night is not sufficient. The priests will return tomorrow, and the night after, and for 20 nights more. They will average the measurements, account for the precession they do not yet understand, but have observed across generations, refine the angle to a precision that will make modern surveyors weep with envy. The Great Pyramid will be aligned to true north within 3.4 arc minutes, less than 1/15th of a single degree. A tolerance so narrow that compasses created 4,000 years later will seem crude by comparison. This is not luck. This is mathematics written in wood and starlight. When the sun rises, the invisible line of the stars becomes the trench of the gods. Workers return to the site. Ropes stretch along the north-south axis. Limestone dust marks the sacred geometry onto the bedrock. Queen Hetepheres walks the perimeter. She watches not to inspect, but to witness a miracle taking shape. If the foundation is off by an inch, the peak will be off by a mile. The shafts that must point to Orion and Thuban will miss their celestial targets. The pharaoh's soul will have no pathway home. She has seen the Merkhet at work. She has stood beside Hemiunu as he read the heavens. She knows that what appears to be simple is impossibly complex. 2 sticks and a string. Yet within them, encoded in their alignment, is the entire cosmic order. The Merkhet is older than the pyramids. No one knows who first discovered that a weighted string always points to the Earth's center. And no one remembers the first astronomer who realized that this property could be reversed, used not to find the Earth, but to find the sky. By the time of Khufu, the instrument is already ancient. Temple priests use it to determine the hour of night. 12 parts, divided by the meridian transits of 36 deacon stars. When a particular star crosses the meridian, a specific hour has arrived. This is how they know when to perform rituals, when to open temple doors, when to speak prayers that must be uttered in perfect synchronization with celestial events. Time itself is measured by the Merkhet. The night is no longer unknowable darkness. It is a clock face written in constellations. Farmers use it too, though they do not know the mathematics. When Sopdet, the star the Greeks will call Sirius, rises just before dawn, the Nile will flood within days. The Merkhet allows priests to predict this event with uncanny accuracy. Life depends on the flood. Crops, survival, civilization itself. A simple sighting tool becomes the difference between feast and famine. But the true secret lies in the temples. After the pyramids, after Khufu and Khafra and Menkaure, the Merkhet's purpose deepens. Architects begin designing temples with astronomical precision. The sacred axis must align with specific stars on specific nights. The gods demand it. At Karnak, the temple of Amun-Ra stretches eastward. On the winter solstice, the sun rises directly along the temple's central axis. Light floods through the sanctuary, illuminating the statue of the god in the innermost chamber. For 10 minutes, stone becomes flesh. The Merkhet made this possible. Priests used it to determine the exact azimuth of the rising sun on that sacred day. They measured, refined, tested across years. Then they built. Hundreds of workers, decades of labor, thousands of tons of sandstone and granite, all to capture a single beam of light on a single morning. At night, the temples become something else. Observatories. In the pyramid of Khufu, 2 narrow shafts extend from the king's chamber. They angle upward through the massive stone bulk, emerging on the pyramid's outer face. One shaft points north, the other south. Modern archaeologists believed they were air shafts, ventilation for workers. They were wrong. In 1964, a researcher named Alexander Badawi discovered the truth. The northern shaft, in 2500 BC, pointed directly at Thuban during its lower culmination, and the southern shaft aimed at Al-Nitak, the brightest star in Orion's belt, the celestial representation of Osiris. These were not air shafts, they were soul shafts, passageways for the pharaoh's Ka to ascend to the imperishable stars, to join the circumpolar constellations that never set, never die, to become eternal. And the Merkhet made it possible. Hemiunu and his team used the instrument to calculate the precise angles. They accounted for the pyramid's height, the thickness of stone, the exact position of the chamber. Then they drilled, through solid limestone, for hundreds of feet, at angles so precise that the margin of error was less than half a degree. No modern drill, no laser guidance, only the Merkhet, the plumb line, and human hands. The moment of alignment. Imagine the first night the pyramid was complete enough to test. Hemiunu climbs the interior passage. The air is thick with limestone dust and sweat. Torches flicker against walls that will stand for 5,000 years. He reaches the king's chamber. The sarcophagus is not yet installed. The space is empty, echoing. He positions himself at the mouth of the southern shaft. It is barely wide enough for a man's shoulders. He lies on his back and looks upward. Through hundreds of feet of stone, through the narrow tunnel carved with copper and dolerite, he sees sky. And in that sky, framed perfectly by the shaft's opening, burns Al-Nitak, Osiris, the god of resurrection. The shaft works. The pharaoh's soul will have its path. Hemiunu does not speak. He does not move. For 10 minutes he simply watches the star, knowing that he has succeeded where failure was unthinkable. He has built a ladder to heaven, and with wood and string and starlight. But the Merkhet's greatest secret is not in pyramids or temples. It is in time itself. The ancient Egyptians understood something profound. The universe is a machine, predictable, cyclical, eternal. The stars repeat their patterns. The sun returns. The Nile floods on schedule. And if these things are constant, then time can be measured, divided, controlled. The Merkhet allowed them to create the first 24-hour day. 12 hours of daylight, measured by the sun's shadow on gnomons and obelisks. 12 hours of night, measured by the meridian transits of deacon stars using the Merkhet. This system spread to Greece, to Rome, to the medieval Islamic world, to Europe. The clock on your wall descends directly from the Merkhet, the division of day and night into equal segments, and the concept that time is something that can be marked, tracked, owned. All of it began with two men standing in the desert, watching a plumb line and a star. Years pass, the pyramid rises. From dust, a wonder has stood firm, a giant stone compass pointing straight to eternity. Khufu dies. His body is mummified, wrapped in linen soaked in natron and resin. The priests perform the opening of the mouth ceremony. His ka separates from his physical form. It ascends through the southern shaft, toward Orion, toward Osiris, toward resurrection among the imperishable stars. The Merkhet's work is complete, but the instrument does not rest. It passes to the next generation, and the next. For 3,000 years, Egyptian astronomers will use it. They will map the heavens with greater and greater precision, identify new Deacon stars, to predict eclipses, track the precession of the equinoxes without understanding the physics behind it. The Greeks will learn from them. Eudoxus of Cnidus travels to Egypt in 380 BC and studies with the priests of Heliopolis. He brings their astronomical knowledge back to Greece. Hipparchus, Ptolemy, and eventually Copernicus will build on foundations laid by men with Merkhets. The scientific revolution begins in the desert, with a stick and a string. The last Merkhet is used sometime around 100 AD. By then, the Greeks have invented the astrolabe, the armillary sphere, more complex instruments that can measure celestial coordinates with mechanical precision. The Merkhet becomes obsolete, but it is not forgotten. Archaeologists find examples in tombs, wealthy officials buried with their tools of trade, and the instruments are simple, almost crude, but their purpose is unmistakable. Museums display them today, behind glass, under soft lights. Tourists walk past, barely glancing. They do not understand that they are looking at the device that invented astronomy as a science. That transformed the night sky from a tapestry of myths into a readable text. That allowed humanity to navigate not